Hey everyone, welcome back to DemDMs. My name is Panda Ghost.
Matt.
And I'm Fox Ghost.
And today we're going to be comparing online versus in-person Dungeons and Dragons. So if everyone's ready, let's slide on in.
Well,
All right. Well,
Yes.
Online versus in person. I mean, let's kick this off right. Who here likes actually playing online?
I do.
Oh, there's the hand. All right.
sort of. I
And
don't know. It depends. It
all right.
honestly depends.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk about that. Let's get it into it. So, uh, let's start with you, Panda. What parts of online gaming do you prefer as versus in person?
So I'm someone that really likes having full art battle maps and things like that, and tokens that actually represent well what you're actually fighting. Like sometimes when you're playing in person, you have you have that miniature out, but it's not really what you're fighting, right? Like what were we fighting that one time? We used the dragon turtle instead of what we were actually fighting, right? The
Sure.
shambling mound. So things like that. I do prefer online for the combat, and if you look at rules for D&D, the vast the like 90%, 90 to 99% of the rules are centered around combat, right?
Yeah.
And I find that online D&D handles combat better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the immersiveness, right? Like
Right,
it's
exactly.
it's the feeling, it's the ability to do things that make your players feel like they are in that
Right.
location.
Exactly. And not to
And
date this video or anything, but like the whole weather system that Roll20 is going to be bringing
the overlay.
to the
Yep.
VTT, that's just going to be a whole new
Another layer.
level. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, there's ways to do those things in person, but it's far harder than just
Right.
what you're
Gross
able to
Exactly.
bucket
do on
of water
Roll20.
on the table.
Yeah, just
Yeah, yeah. Just sprinkle some water in the players' faces while they're sitting at the table. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I
With
mean,
that
we
rain
already
effect.
have a
spray bottle.
spray bottle to wipe up the dry
Wet
erase
erase.
board. So yeah,
Wet
or wet
erase.
Yeah,
erase board.
and when
Sorry,
players get defiant,
like
spritz.
cats.
Exactly.
Anyway, but one thing that I've noticed is really nice is the ruler ability to know,
Oh.
like, okay, I have this far to go, I need this range. Really helps with that.
Yeah, and
But
it's
yeah.
also a lot more on the DM usually when you're doing it in person too, for like that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. So it makes it a little bit easier on the DM having the players be able to do that. Um,
Now, to alleviate that, I have thought of having like a string with with markings
Oh
for
my
like
god.
a 30, like no, seriously, to have like a 30, like have it marked out to what would 30 feet, for example, so that's 6 squares.
Right.
Um, because
yeah,
that's the most common measurement you're using. Those things are either a
mhm.
divisible of or are 30 feet.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, they have all those like stencils and things, and that's really, I guess, uh, you can do a lot of that stuff in person that you can do on Roll20, but you're paying for some sort of or making
Right.
some sort of device to do that.
mhm.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things that I would say is better in person for combat is elevation.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, elevation. Yeah.
like we have those towers, which I barely get to use and spend a lot of money on. But
Oops.
those are really cool, and I don't know how else you would do it on Roll20 aside from like color coding a elevation
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
But it it's still
Oh.
pretty good comparatively. I would also say the character sheets on Roll20 tend to be a little bit easier to use once they're set up
Right. Once they're set
for
up.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
Which,
other than combat, you still have role play though, which I will concede
sure.
that I think given the right people though, role play online can be fine. Um,
Yeah, I
Our
mean,
group struggles sometimes with.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, our group struggles with role play no matter what, and I find the doing online makes it a compounding factor as well.
sure. Yeah, I think for me, having DM'd when we started on online, um, I just noticed that it was easier for the players to get distracted.
Yes,
Um,
I mean,
and
I
so I
will.
feel like it's almost the inverse. On combat, you're more immersed on roll 20 in online. And then
Right.
in person, you're more immersed in the role play side of things, and
Mhm.
it's interesting. But I also like some of the capability of, Discord to have different channels with people so you don't have to be passing notes the entire time. You can
Yeah.
just bring them into a new,
Right.
channel and talk
Right.
with them and
Yeah.
whatever else.
And I will say, I feel like a lot of the problems with role playing can actually be mitigated if we all had our web cameras on. We do not use web cameras when we play
Yeah.
online. I feel like if we did, um, you could see when someone's distracted and call them out for. I mean, it's not like you should be a
Mhm.
jerk about it, but like, you're gonna be more cognizant of like, oh, they're watching me, right?
Yeah. And I think online though, the players that feel the urge, or not the urge, but feel okay to kind of be in the background and almost hide in a conversation, it's a lot easier for them to do that online,
Right.
which might be more comfortable for them. But it also, I feel like sometimes as a DM, you kind of rely on your players to understand, like, if something's actually coming across the way you want it to, like,
Right.
but like you said, facial expressions, and obviously the way that we play, that doesn't work, as well
Right.
as, internet connections are sometimes crappy and things cut out, and then your
Yeah. So someone's
immersions.
internet's real bad.
We don't need to talk about that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I I think it's, again, there's no right answer really. I feel like we lucked out because we were already on roll 20 when the pandemic hit.
Right. We didn't have
And
to adjust like everyone else did.
yeah, and I think it's made it so easy for people to just get together and play a game now.
Yeah.
I have a friend who he plays with people that are in, halfway across the country, on a regular basis because of Roll 20 and everything else.
Right.
And obviously not forgetting Fantasy Grounds and other
Right.
online systems. But um, so yeah, I mean, for that, I'm very grateful for it. But I can tell you, there's nothing like sitting down in person and rolling the dice.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we actually just made an interesting point. We we had our pros and our cons of playing in person or online. Now we so let's take if we're playing online, for example. You guys mentioned that we can turn our webcams to help with the role play, the
Mhm.
difficulties in role playing. Well, you can do the same thing, taking some of the pros from online play and inject them into uh, in-person play. What happens if you had a large touch screen that you could set on the table and just have roll 20 going, or whatever
Yeah,
VTT you want, and essentially instead of using a wet erase mat, you had your touch screen, which would get you the things that Pandagos likes with the full art maps
yeah,
and the um, the rulers and all that good stuff. The DM could probably have their own behind the scene where they're controlling like monsters and stuff, but the players could then use the
yeah,
main screen for general.
Yeah,
fairness.
unfortunately, they do large touchscreens like that do exist, but
They're very expensive.
they're
I know.
very expensive and really I think relegated to like
Now, what happens if you had a projector and projected down onto the table, and instead of using player tokens, you used the physical player figurines, and then the monsters were tokens that the DM was controlling from.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, there's
These are just I'm just spitballing ideas to try and bridge the gap between
Sure.
the online
Sure.
VTTs and the
and
um
and the way
in
you're
person.
talking about doing it also helps to, if you need to have a session online and you normally play in person, you can instantly make that transition.
Right.
Whereas, a lot of my session prep tends to be, reliant on, oh, am I going to be in person or am I going to be online? So if I think I'm going to be in person, I don't really prepare as much. And then inevitably people are like, can we play online? And then I'm like, well, it's like 3 days before the game session, guys. But you're right. It would make it interesting, and people do all exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And that's another way to solve the problem. I think just the bare bones for me is, especially because for me and for you guys too, having started off, playing in person, there's the sense of more nostalgia than anything else with actually rolling the dice. We have our problems with the RNG on roll 20, but it's it fe- I I feel more earned getting a natural 20 on a die than I do on roll 20. And that's,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Agreed.
There really shouldn't be a reason why I feel that way, but I do. It's because you're actually, I guess, doing something. So maybe you feel like you're,
Yep.
engaging in some, action there. And also, who doesn't like to roll fireballs worth of d6s? You know
Well,
what
for
I
me,
mean?
it's
Or
sneak
or
attacks, but
yeah, or
or
yeah,
smites.
or
Yeah.
smites. Yeah, them smites are fun to roll.
Mhm.
Although, well, that's another pro though for
VTT online.
VTTs is that it does all the math for you, right? Like I know when
Sure.
we play in person, there's some people who, you know, struggle with counting up what their dice are. I mean, even I, when I'm stacking a smite on top of a crit and you're rolling like, 8d8s or something ridiculous like that, and
Yeah.
3d or 4d2 or 46s for a flame tongue or something like that, right? That's a crap ton of dice that you're now having to count, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
My only suggestion for that is when you have a lot of dice in person, group them by tens. It's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, but
Group your
still,
Yeah.
dice by
Thaw's Fast is
tens.
like an automatic.
Exactly,
It does
but
take some time.
there's tricks to make the dice counting a little
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. And I mean, with the advent of things like D&D Beyond, in person gets a little bit easier with that kind of stuff. There are dice rollers on D&D Beyond that you can use if for whatever reason you don't feel like rolling the dice. And it also gives you that kind of organization to your character sheet that otherwise a pencil and paper doesn't always
Yeah.
give you.
So like in our current session, since I use me and Panda Ghost solely use D&D Beyond for our character sheets. So I don't have to transfer stuff back and forth from my paper sheet to an electronic sheet. It's all just in one place. That way, all I gotta do is just I have a little tablet, little cheapo tablet that I use, and I have that sitting in front of me instead of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
the
takes up less
13
space
books
on
you
the
need.
table too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me specifically, I think in-person gaming, I just feel like that has a more social aspect in my mind just cuz I don't know, I wasn't really an online gamer, so I didn't really meet people online and that kind of feel that kind of environment. So I tend to be more sociable in person, generally,
I
and
think that goes
so
for most of us in our group, yeah.
yeah, and so it's just always more fun to have you guys sitting around a table.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit stuffy sometimes
Yeah.
when we're all crammed into my back office room here, but
Yeah.
other, and sometimes you might need to leave a window open, but it's fine. But all in all, it's just tend to have more fun both as a DM and as a player when I'm in person. Panda, when you and I were playing with a couple of our friends in that one game where you were the descendant of one of your characters from one of my games earlier on, and you and I are just having side conversations in character, like being like, what's up with your genealogy? How does that work? Talk to me, buddy. And that was complete nonsense, had nothing to do with the story, but it was just fun to get into character that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think for role play wise, I give the award to in person if it was me.
I think just overall general feel, I would agree that in person it just feels better. It just feels more.
It's also the way the game was meant to be played too.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's a social game, and social tends to organically happen more so in person.
Yep. Well, you guys know how we feel. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Until the next video, we'll see you guys next time when you slide into DemDMs.
All right, guys. See ya.
Peace.
Thank you for watching the DemDMs podcast. We release a new video every Thursday. Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments down below. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, be sure to smite that like button, subscribe, and sneak attack the notification bell to ensure that you're up to date on all our new content.